Today I kind of want to talk about something that maybe somebody needs to hear. I know for a fact there's other YouTubers out there who have a story that's very motivational and uplifting. And so I want to share mine in hopes that they will share theirs, because I know somebody out there is going through these things. If you don't know, I'm married. I have 6 kids, boys, all boys, ages 12 all the way down to 7 months. When I first got out of high school, I went to work for the Sheriff's Department and worked there as a deputy for eight or so years. I had my EMT license during that time. When I decided to leave law enforcement, I went into nursing, got my nursing license, and I've been doing that ever since. Now I teach people to be medical assistants. I say that to say this: where you've been in your life is no indicator of where you're going. A hard upbringing or a rough patch in your life doesn't indicate how the rest of your life is going to be. My grandparents raised me, and that was because when I was 7, my stepmother murdered my father. She shot him and then burned his body. If you want to fast forward then about, I was 7, and I think the year I turned 30, my stepfather murdered my mother. Now there's a common link in both those stories, and that common link is drugs. Daddy was a drug dealer, Mama was a drug user. And you know, when you're in that lifestyle, you live by the gun, you die by the gun. My stepmother was a drug addict, and apparently through court records and things, I was young, but apparently through all that, you know, she thought Dad had some dope and he was holding out on her. And my mother was married to a drug dealer, a pill pusher. I don't know if you all ever heard of the OxyContin Express, but there used to be, this big deal where people would leave and go to Florida and go from clinic to clinic to clinic and get their prescriptions filled and come back and sell the pills. So he was a big pill seller. And I guess she was dipping in his stash, and he caught her and beat her to death. It's always annoyed me when people say, well, I'm a criminal because I had a hard upbringing. I steal things because I had a bad life. You are the one who decides what you're going to be, not where you've been, what you've done, not those around you, not your parents. Both my parents were junkies. My grandfather was the biggest and best known bootleg moonshiner in this part of Tennessee. I turned out to be the police. Now the reason I turned out to be the police is because when the law come to the house to tell, my grandparents that they'd found my dad's body, 2 deputies came. One of them got in the floor and played with me, and I thought that was cool, and I wanted to be that. So I did that. I did it for a while. And what I realized is guys like him are few and far between. So, if you're struggling right now, if you're a young person and you live in a home where alcohol is prevalent, maybe your parents fight all the time, maybe it's violent, it won't last forever. I promise. I don't know if you have faith, but I grew up in the church, and the more I studied as far as nursing and everything goes, I have to believe in God. There's no way everything's too perfect, but whatever you put your faith in, you just need to know that this is not going to last forever. If you're going through hard times, it's going to stop, and only you can decide what you're going to do or how your life is going to be once you're able to get out from under that roof. If you have intestinal fortitude and dig deep, you can be the change in your family. You can break that cycle. My kids don't have a clue what happened to my parents. They just think they died. And that's the way I want it to be, because there's no reason to go into all that with them. My kids don't know anything about me doing drugs. I remember one time my mama got so high, I was 12, that she couldn't drive anymore. So the best thing she could do was pull over and let me drive. That's how I learned to drive a stick shift on the interstate, was trying to get back home with her, and she was just retarded. And I don't say that slandering people who have handicaps. I'm saying she was the epitome of being retarded. I don't know how we made it. My grandpa used to get super drunk, and he would be abusive toward my grandmother. Not so much me or the rest of the family, more so her. And I always wondered, why do you put up with that? Why don't you do something about it? And it's because nobody would have believed her if she had told it. Because he's one of those perfect examples of an abuser. Everybody outside the house loves him. Really hard worker. He was a hard worker. Honest. He never would lie to you. He'd tell you the truth. But, when he got on that bottle, and it was never beer, it was liquor. And I remember praying. I used to go to school. The school was like 40 minutes from home, and all the way home I'd be in my mind like, please don't let him be drunk when I get home. Please don't let him be drunk when I get home. And you'd know it pretty quick. He would have a bottle of Kessler's in one pocket and a Coke in the other, or he would have a quart jar drinking moonshine. That's when he was going to get violent. Matter of fact, when Daddy did get killed, my grandma wasn't even living at home. My grandpa got really violent one night, and we ran off. Honest to God, we were able to put our shoes on, and we had our underwear on. Just so happens, thank the Lord, that my Aunt Rhonda, who had been divorced and moved back home at the time, was coming back home from a date or whatever, and picked us up on the road and took us, and we hid for several days. And the only reason we came home is because, Daddy got found dead. So, you're the one. And I believe everybody has what it takes to be their own person. You just have to do it. Sometimes it's easy to go along with the status quo. Sometimes it's easy to stay in what's comfortable and what you know. The easy thing is not going to get you anywhere. Nothing that's easy is really going to be a big benefit to you. It's going to suck. It sucks now, and I know it sucks. I remember those days very well. When my wife first met me, she couldn't understand why I kept every door closed that I went through. It's because it was a barrier. It may not stop him, but it gives me, if the door's closed and I can hear him coming through doors, that gives me enough chance to hide. It gives me enough chance to, to run. I've gotten better with that. You won't ever get over this stuff, but it will just make you stronger. When you break a bone in your body and that break heals back, that bone is stronger there in the break than it is anywhere else. And that all sounds cheesy, but it's the truth. I want you all to know that it will get better. Maybe you've had a car wreck. Maybe you were born with some kind of disability. That doesn't define you as a person. It's not who you are. That's just something that happened to you, your shell. It's not who you are. Anyway, I want to stop preaching. I just wanted to put this out there because I know that people struggle, especially this time of year. I know y'all are struggling, trying to figure out how you're going to get them presents. It's not always about J's. That's not a struggle. If we don't get the new drop, whatever, big deal. But, there's a lot of people out there trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to keep the electricity on? How am I going to keep some food in the cabinets? And how am I going to get these kids some presents? It'll get better.